When life gets harder little by little, each step feels tolerable, but over weeks or months, the emotional baseline drops without the person realizing how far it has fallen. This is called emotional erosion. Did I tell you about someone I know who was suffering from PTSD as a military veteran and could not hold on to the reality that he had a chance to make a difference in his child's life, but chose to exit the world because the elements he was suffering from was just too great for him to manage? Well, this story starts with a military veteran whom we will call Kelvin. Now, Kelvin served in an elite unit and was very proud of what he had accomplished during his time of service. It was not easy to get to the level he had achieved. All the training and selection to be considered among the best the U.S. military had to offer. You see, this unit was not just any military unit. It is part of the military special operations, and they challenge every individual to fail, selecting only those who were both mentally and physically strong to move forward. And this is precisely what Kelvin achieved. Even after selection, there is still a constant process of proving and learning to earn the respect of his fellow soldiers who were already in this unit. This is mostly to ensure that everyone can trust and depend on their fellow brother on their left and right flank. Overall, Kelvin did just that and was fortunate enough to call these fellow men his brothers. Now, in the U.S., we are challenged by other countries due to our democratic society. And without discussing politics, our leadership tends to make decisions that challenge other countries, and other countries tend to challenge us. However, the level of courage, pride, and skills we possess in the U.S. is beyond approach, and this country is always ready and able for the challenge that lay ahead, especially in cases in which Kelvin and his unit were challenged, and to meet these demands to represent our country on the enemy soil for reasons I cannot divulge. Fast forward the time for soldiering that comes to an end, and it is necessary to retire the uniform and take on a different life. For Kelvin, his life evolved into a marriage and soon after a daughter. Kelvin had not really processed what his life would be like, so he took on teaching as a substitute, and he dealt with students that had extenuating circumstances, such as detention students, low GPA, students that were pregnant, etc. You get the point. This was his job that was available to him, and he had to make the best of it. He had a family to take care of. Over time, this role became increasingly frustrating and humiliating, especially for someone who was an elite soldier, flying around the world into enemy territory and having this adrenaline rush at every turn. And as he attempted to complete a mission, and now he is sitting in a trailer park type camper behind the school, teaching students who have no desire to be there, just as they can just turn 18 and quit, or maybe just ride out the consequences. Now, you should know, during this period of time, people did not discuss mental health as openly as they do now. Even the Veterans Administration failed to implement effective programs for veterans in a timely manner during this period. So you can imagine how Kelvin had no idea what was happening to him. As people, we can adapt to stress. Hell, Kelvin thrived in it. He was in uniform. That was what he was trained for. However, when life gets harder little by little, each step feels tolerable, but over weeks or months, the emotional baseline drops without the person realizing how far it has fallen. This is called emotional erosion. You also have people who are capable of coping. They continue to work, care for others, and meet obligations even while struggling internally, because they're still performing. While the depression hides behind productivity, but the fear is that when someone is under constant pressure, exhaustion and irritability evolves. This can feel like a normal response. You see, depression blends into the background. It's not just being tired or just being overwhelmed. This is how it creeps up on a person. And before you know it, the person can be in a state of decline. I was aware that Kelvin was showing signs of most of this, but it became more obvious when he made comments and exhibited subtle symptoms. Now, for the record, Kelvin was not my client, so our conversations were casual, to say the least. Also, for the record, I was not working in this field as a mental health specialist nor a behavioral coach at the time. I was not even in healthcare field. I was doing enterprise architecture for technology data centers. So I had no experience at all detecting signs. However, as I reflect, it was clear that he was showing reduced motivation, trouble concentrating, and emotional numbness. In my defense, I did not see these things clearly. Many veterans show these elements because of the massive difference between the military and civilian life. I want to thank the sponsor, Crank Golf, for supporting the series about sports performance and managing your mental health. Because of sponsors like them, we're able to keep things going and keeping topics fresh. If you want to support this page, please just click subscribe and click the bell so you can get updates on the next topics. Thank you again. For example, the high intensity of flying in a C-5 packed with your fellow soldiers with your rucksack strapped to your feet and a parachute on your back and lap, and you're waiting to approach a drop zone and jump into a territory that is likely waiting to eliminate your life. So to be a civilian, what level of work will give you that type of motivation other than being the entryman on a SWAT team entering a building, going after a suspect? And concentration, forget it. Hard to do that when you are bored at a desk trying to babysit young students who do not even want to be there as much as Kelvin. So when his memories are full of years of intense training in combat and soldiering, how was I to know he was demonstrating levels of depression? But I think most veterans are dealing with this at various degrees. Again, looking back, the warning signs were there. I did notice the irritability in his personality and feeling overwhelmed with minor things and being sensitive. You know, in his field of work in the military, this is definitely not the norm. And there was the negative self-talk. So as someone with massive confidence to do what he achieved, it was not expected to hear him speak of failure. If I had picked up on that, I could have further investigated his behavior by asking his wife about his sleeping pattern, his level of energy, and his interest in doing things. All warning signs that would have given me the appropriate red flags to do a buddy check and call in reinforcements. To this day, I am saddened to have lost my friend, and I carry that with me daily. I failed to see the warning signs, and because of that, there is a wife, now widow, and a little girl with no father. If nothing else, understanding this allows me to remind myself that even when we do not feel or we have a purpose, there is someone who needs you and me. That is why I always say on my podcast, look to your left and right. Someone is always there, and that someone is not just me. My name is Dr. Bryant, and I thank you for being here with me on the Mental Blueprint podcast. Be safe until the next time. Hi, thank you for watching and listening to The Mental Suicide. The friend I mentioned in the show was a real person, and everything I spoke about was factual, other than his name. I changed that to protect his identity. My friend served in the same Airborne Rangers Special Operation Unit, same as myself. He and I actually served in the same battalion, but did not overlap in time. The training and the exposure, what we were challenged with, is nothing short of high demanding, and in many cases, something far beyond the normal of what the body can endure. But we do it. We are trained and we are challenged to be the best. Currently, various military agencies come to our prestigious school, Ranger School, or even try to compete in what we host as the Ranger Challenge, all to demonstrate their mental and physical fortitude of what we as Rangers perform each and every day. The reality is that after the military, we are expected to function in a normal society after enduring what the mind and body cannot typically process. So people like me and many others are struggling to find a way to protect a fellow veteran from making a decision with no do-over. So if you know someone who is showing symptoms similar to what I discussed, I ask you to have a conversation, seek professional assistance, contact me, or reach out to another mutual friend for additional support. That is what I meant by calling in reinforcements. You can call or text 988 for assistance. That is the Suicide and Crisis Lifeline.